Today, I want to give you 6 options for what you can do with your modern farmhouse to just simply transition it. Small, easy ways, maybe a few you might want to spend a little bit more on. But these are ideas that you can use with your modern farmhouse that you already have. You'll be able to use a lot of the things that you already own and just take things to a different level. What we're seeing basically in the trends overall is that modern farmhouse was a little bit kind of stripped down, a little bare, really modern, really white. Well, things are moving to a little bit warmer direction, a little bit more sophistication, a little bit more refinement. I hope today is going to leave you feeling super inspired. If you haven't hit subscribe, what are you waiting for? We've got all kinds of videos that we love to share with you that hopefully will keep you encouraged in your journey in creating your perfect home. So let's jump into today's video. The ideas I'm about to share with you, they can go in your current home. You don't need to, erase it and start over. We're just gonna be adding to it. We're gonna add more sophistication, more elegance, and just a little bit more warmth into it. It's just a little bit more refined. That's what these 6 options are going to provide you. Let's jump in. So number 1 is English cottage. Now, I would just put the word modern in front of all of these because if you picture the English cottage of yesteryears, I don't know about you, you might be into the cottage core idea, but for me, it just doesn't seem to hit the mark for me. It just feels backwards facing a little bit, and I want something that's fresh and new, something that's modern, something that's, I don't know, there's a little bit of energy and a little bit of luxury in it. I don't want something maybe quite so small with the ceilings being so small, right? Like I want something that feels a little bit more open and brighter. I'm just looking for something new. That's what you can do if you take the inspiration of the English cottage and you add a little modern overlay over the whole thing. So you could still do the white walls, but you might want to add in some stone features throughout your home. You might want to paint the walls in a little bit warmer color. You could use a lime wash to create a feeling of age. You could go for a creamier palette if you want rather than something so stark. But either way, I think adding in more modern furniture into the setting will really help you, and adding in some of the details in the architecture of an English cottage into your home will really help you. I think that the English cottage garden is a huge aspect of this, and I don't think you need to change that too much. Maybe just a little bit of structure in there, maybe a little bit more sophisticated rather than, all tumbled and, ancient. It's very difficult for us to replicate the, cottage built in the 1600s. So it's really kind of almost impossible actually for us to even really replicate that style. So instead, why not put a modern twist on it and make it something new and something that has all the modern conveniences. Bigger windows would be one that I think would make me crazy. I like a lot of light in my home, right? So these are things that you can do if you have a modern farmhouse or you like a rustic style. You can create a modern English cottage that will perfectly segue you into the coming days. One of the things you're going to notice throughout this style is that there is a level of pampering going on like never before. I think that modern farmhouse movement was it could be quite utilitarian and quite pared back, and it was missing this feeling, right, of pampering. And a lot of times we do call that luxurious, but it's also about like the little luxuries of life. So I'm very excited because Blooming is our video sponsor for today, and I'm so pumped because this is one of my favorite ways to pamper myself. It's very affordable, and yet it's so transformative, and I absolutely love it. So Blooming has come out with their new Face Pro 2. I'm so pumped because basically everything that I loved about the original Face Pro, the fact that it helps even out your complexion, reduces wrinkles and signs of aging. I love the way it immediately reduces swelling in your face. I've had a cold for the last few days. I'm gonna turn this one on so we can get started. The Face Pro 2 is gonna help you get to all of those benefits even faster, and it has been so amazing. And even now while I'm using it, you can see it is immediate. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish that you could feel the difference, because my face is so puffy from having a little bit of a cold, and I can physically feel a difference in the puffiness of my skin. This really helps with also tightening the jawline, another thing that I'm very appreciative of. I think that you guys will absolutely love the results that you are going to get. Using the red light, the anti-aging setting will help increase oxygen and blood flow to your skin, which in turn will increase the collagen production, which also helps reduce wrinkles. And 3 times a week is more than enough to get amazing results. I love it. I know you guys do as well, because we keep selling this thing out, guys. So normally the Face Pro 2 is $300. Blooming very kindly was gonna offer this to you guys for $150, but I asked if there was anything better they could do for me, and they came back with an additional 35% off. So if you click my link down below and use my code Valentina, you're gonna end up paying $98. And if for some reason you don't get the results that you want, you don't pay. So thank you again to Blooming for being our video sponsor, and make sure you check down below in the description box for the link and also the code Valentina. Option 2 is the English Manor. English Manor inspired, as in modern English Manor or just modern Manor. I've talked about this one at length. We talked about it last year when we were talking about trends that were coming in. We talked about equestrian culture and that lifestyle. It's all about like the ultimate sophistication. It sounds very expensive and it looks very expensive. What you want to do is never take a style out of your options because it looks expensive. What you want to do is get really creative in creating that style on any budget you have. So creating a manor from the 16s or 1700s, that might not be in everyone's budget, but you can create from that style. What about the paneled walls, right? We can do paneled walls. You can actually add trim work into your home pretty inexpensively, especially if you are a DIYer. You could add in a beautiful fireplace. You could add in some stone work. You could add warm tones into your home that'll create that modern yet manor type feel. You could add in wood floors or a tumbled stone. In my bathroom, I loved that rustic limestone kind of look from the modern manors, more like below deck downstairs kind of look, but I loved those limestone floors. So I was able to find a marble that was only $6 a square foot. It was a honed marble from Floor & Decor, and it gives me that effect without having to cost me. It was actually cheaper than a lot of the other ceramic tiles and stuff. So what you want to do is really think about your style and think about what a modern manor would include. I think switching out some of your lighting, going for something a little bit more substantial. Again, that velvet sofa just keeps coming back. With that modern manor style, I think it's really about having something really chic and sophisticated. For me personally, I probably wouldn't add the tapestries back in, for example. I don't know if I personally would want the oil paintings. I would want to add a little bit more of the architectural feeling of the modern manor, and then add in furniture that's a little bit more modern to really keep it in tune with current times. But when it's yours, you get to decide, and hopefully all the inspiration that we're popping up for you has given you lots of ideas and gotten your creative juices flowing about what elements you could include into your home. I hope it'll give you lots of inspiration that'll give you inspo for living in a rustic space, but also you can have a modern feeling and something that feels a little bit more of the times. A lot of you have said that you have modern farmhouses in the mountains, and I think that's very interesting because a lot of times modern farmhouses weren't really built in the mountains. So maybe part of the reason that you feel like your home is not quite doing it for you is because it doesn't really fit the setting that it's in. If you've got a modern farmhouse in the middle of the city, you might just feel like there's like a disconnect. And so sometimes combining styles, right? Maybe leaning a little bit more modern rather than a little to the farmhouse side if you're living in a city, right? These ideas can be included into any style home, but you might find yourself just running into this dissonance because modern farmhouses are typically, I assume that they're out on like rolling hills, pastures, farmland, places you could actually farm, right? So if you've got a modern farmhouse in the mountains, you may want to think about transitioning your home to a modern cabin. You may want to think about kind of the modern chalet kind of feel. I think that that style is so beautiful. Rather than stripping your home back, let's start adding in some of that wood, right? Not all white, but let's have some wood up on the walls. We can have wood everywhere, wood and stone and rock. Your accessories can definitely have a more rustic feel to them, but still very sophisticated and elevated. I think those are words, if you start asking yourself about the items that you're putting in, they'll really help you to define whether this is working and whether you're really moving away from, right, like the little jam jars to now maybe like a marble bowl in your modern cabin, right? You want larger pieces that are more substantial. I think pieces like this little wood sphere, right? These are pieces that can work in any of these styles today, actually. And they really bring in the warmth that a lot of people find themselves craving when they're moving away from that modern farmhouse feeling and they're wanting something that's chic and elegant and yet still has that rusticness that makes you feel really comfortable around it. This is the kind of stuff that I like to use in my spaces that really just keeps that texture and that warmth in them. I think also, think about adding just more refinement through some of those finishing details. I think modern farmhouse got to where it was so pared back that we were just missing something. So I say plush rugs throughout any of these styles. You might be ready for something that's a little bit silkier feeling, maybe something with an abstract pattern in it, something that feels a little bit more contemporary. Don't let that word scare you. It just means that it's simple and refined. Those items will help you fill up your home and give you this new look. And if you are looking for a go-to place for these items, definitely check out my Amazon storefront because I really do just cull out all of the junk. I've ordered so many rugs, sent so many back, and the ones in that category are the ones that are tried and true. And I think that they'll really help you to get that beautiful, refined feeling. But I do think that the modern cabin, like slash chalet, that style is so warm. And I think focusing on the decadence of that style will really help you to add that feeling of sophistication that you might just find yourself craving. I think about the kitchens in that style so much and like the big fireplaces with big windows. And if you put a modern farmhouse in, you might already have a lot of those details. So maybe you might need to make small changes like switching out your countertop to something that's warmer, something that's a little bit more decadent, and just add a new layer of warmth and just refinement to what you already have. Maybe switching out the handles to something with brass or something maybe with like a rich iron, right? You've got options to play with. Same for the lighting. Before we move on too far, think about your lighting, adding something more sophisticated and substantial rather than something that's minimal and pared back. So yeah, hopefully that will give you lots of ideas. We have talked about the French country modern style before, and it is one that I still find myself going back to over and over. I think of it kind of in a way as like a Dutch style. The Dutch have this amazing rustic country style. Designers like Axel Vervoort they have really popularized this style. You see lime washed walls and there's almost that monastic side to things. You could go for like 17th and 18th century French country with all of the gilding and all of that. That's perfectly allowed, right? If you want to bring some sort of newness to your modern farmhouse or to any space that you're decorating today. But I do think that rustic monastic style is one that is just it just gets me every time. I'm like, oh, I just want to like go sit in that room. I think that going for really dark, chalky colors can be really helpful, or at least a palette of really deep, rich, warm colors. So like really deep, rich khakis and really deep, rich whites, smoky blacks and grays, and immersing yourself into that color and really going for a lot of natural materials. You'll want to add wood into this. You're going to want to add stone. You're going to want to add that detail maybe. Oh, if you can swing it, go for like an amazing fireplace made out of stone. Limestone is so beautiful, but you can look at the marble ones as well. And you want to include that feeling. It's just going to warm up the whole space. First of all, taking yourself from stark white to one of those colors, right? Like really drenching it. It's going to feel, I always feel like those homes feel like they're damp. Like they smell like wood fire burning. And I think stone and concrete, wood again, marble, like these little balls are those inexpensive ones from Amazon. They're little ceramic balls. Like these things go really well in that. I've got these handmade ceramic vases, right? Things like this in that style home are absolutely amazing. You could use a little bit of shagreen, some wood, maybe mix in some brass to keep it feeling current. But that style is just beautiful. And I've done an entire video about it if you want to be able to watch it. We've kind of taken you through the transformation really of the French country modern style so you can see a little bit more in depth about it. But that style, again, like a Persian rug could be really beautiful, but you could also go for something more contemporary. A lot of times you see like a nice rolled arm sofa in that style, and it can be really immersive. And I was gonna say somber, and I think in a way that's kind of my pushback on some of these styles is that they can be a little bit somber at times. They can almost be like the modern manor and the English cottage. In the English cottage, it can almost be just a little bit like too sophisticated, right? They're not meant to be so comfortable. And I think you need to find your balance throughout each of these styles to really decide how comfortable do you want your space to be? How do you want to feel inside of it? But for sure in this modern French country, that more monastic side of things, ancient ruins, God, I love all of like the collected jars and things like that. But I do find myself pushing back ever so slightly, which is why out of all of those styles, I have chosen to go with a modern cottage. I'm using this term to talk about a style that's very kindred to the modern farmhouse. You'll see a lot of similar things. You'll see the white walls, you'll see the black accents, you'll see the iron windows, the iron doors, you'll see pared back kitchens as well, but there's just a little bit of a cottage overlay on top of this. I find myself wanting to be able to walk around my home in a little pair of like croc faux leather pants, right? Like a little jacket. I want to feel comfortable in my clothes, in my home. And so for me, I landed on the modern cottage. We've done a whole video about this one as well. And so I hope you'll find that super helpful. I'll leave the links for those other videos down below so you can check them out more in depth. But in this style, it really is a combination of traditional cottage elements mixed with a more modern style. And it's not so much of like the English florals, it's not so monastic, it's almost a little bit of all of those combined because I don't want to push too far into one of them because then it just feels a little bit too themey for my own house. I felt like in mine, the white walls, to this day, I still just love it. I did a lime wash in the bathroom, and that room probably feels the most somber out of my house, and I cannot convince myself to do that throughout my entire house, which is why every time I look at the modern French country, I can only take it so far for myself because I'm like, it's just too somber. The modern manor, I don't always want to be an equestrian where I don't want to put horse pictures up. Like, how far am I going to go down that road before it makes me feel like I'm no longer in my style? So for me, the modern cottage, it really sums up taking small amounts of the cottage style and adding it into a modern setting. So like in this room, I left the trim work. I left my stairs with the little spindly banister. I left the original fireplace, and I have a more rustic floor. But then like the rest of the house is more refined, it's more elevated. Most of the pieces in the house are more modern. I'll still add in a few pieces that are a little bit more rustic, but you have the refinement and the clean lines mixed in with it. For me, that's where I found myself most comfortable. So the best part about all of this is that there is no right or wrong answer. Every one of us is unique and different. And so the fun of all of this is just exploring all the different styles and seeing which one feels the best. And I try lots of different styles all the time, and I'm like, no, I don't know. I just don't find myself craving the toile plates, for example. I'll have a day where I'm like, oh, where are those plates? And then I don't go to look for them. Like, I just don't want it enough. I really prefer to have a more modern dinnerware set, for example. Like, it's the small things, right? It's how you live in it day to day, and it's all the little details coming together that make a style really fit with you, the architecture of your home, and what you really want out of your life, the kind of clothing that you wear, right? Like, if I loved to wear jodhpurs and like little riding jackets in greens and browns, I would definitely be a candidate for a modern manor. If I loved like a chalet style and I found myself always wanting to wear those kinds of clothes, right? Like, those could also be destinations for you. If you have a second home, you might go with a different style for a destination. But if it's your primary home, I think it's really important to think about how you dress, the kinds of things you like to eat, the way you like to live, and your home should really match that and blend well with the architectural style of your space. So let us know if there is a style in these that maybe isn't your favorite, one that you really would never do, or if there's one that you just are super pumped about. And tell me how you can see using this in your own space and what projects you might take on very soon because of it. Let me know down in the comments. Make sure you hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.